Daniel had always lived a simple life, one that didn't involve anything out of the ordinary. He woke up every morning at 7 a.m., had a cup of coffee, went to work as a software engineer, and returned home to a quiet, empty apartment. It wasn't that he was unhappy, but something was missing, something exciting, something he couldn't quite name. One cold evening, after finishing a long day at work, Daniel decided to take a walk around the city. The streets were nearly empty, with only a few cars and a handful of pedestrians. It was the kind of night where the world seemed peaceful, almost unreal. He walked through the park, his hands buried deep in his coat pockets, his breath forming small clouds in the chilly air. That's when he noticed her. A woman stood by a large oak tree, watching him. She wasn't just any woman, though. There was something about her that didn't fit the ordinary world Daniel knew. She had striking features, dark hair that shimmered under the park's dim lights, and eyes that seemed to glow with an inner light. She looked out of place, like she didn't belong there. At first, Daniel thought it was just his imagination. But as he drew closer, she stepped forward, her eyes never leaving his. "Hello, Daniel," she said. Her voice soft but clear. Daniel froze. He had never seen her before in his life. Yet she knew his name. He swallowed hard, his heart racing. "Do I know you?" he asked, his voice uncertain. She smiled, a gentle, knowing smile that sent a shiver down his spine. "No, but I know you. I've been watching you for a while." Daniel felt a strange mix of curiosity and unease. "Watching me? Why?" She tilted her head, her eyes sparkling with something beyond human understanding. "Because I think you're ready for something bigger, something beyond this world." Daniel took a step back. "What do you mean? Who are you?" The woman didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out something small and shiny. She held it up, and Daniel realized it was a tiny device of some kind. She pressed a button, and a holographic display popped up between them. Images flashed on the screen: stars, planets, strange creatures, and faraway worlds. "I come from a place far beyond Earth," she said, her voice carrying the weight of ancient knowledge. "I'm here because I believe you are special, Daniel. You are one of the few humans who can travel beyond your planet, and I want to show you that world." Daniel's mind raced. He couldn't make sense of what she was saying. Travel beyond Earth. That seemed impossible. "Wait, you're saying you're from another planet?" The woman nodded. "Yes. I come from a place that humans would call a different dimension, but it's more than that. My people have watched your species for centuries, and I've been chosen to bring you to my world." Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. He wasn't sure whether to be excited or frightened. "Why me? Why do you think I'm special?" "Because I see something in you, Daniel. A curiosity, a willingness to explore. You've always felt like there's more to life than what you see here, haven't you?" Daniel hesitated. She was right. He had always wondered if there was something greater, something out there waiting for him. But the idea of leaving everything behind was overwhelming. "I don't know. I have a life here. My job, my friends." She stepped closer, her presence somehow calming despite the strangeness of the situation. "You don't have to decide right now. I'm offering you a chance to see something you've only dreamed about. Come with me, and I will show you my world. You can return anytime you wish, but I believe you'll want to stay." Daniel looked at her, unsure of what to say. Was this real? Was she really offering him a journey beyond anything he had ever known? He took a deep breath. He had always wanted more, had always yearned for something bigger. Maybe, just maybe, this was his chance. He looked into her eyes, searching for any hint of deception. Instead, all he saw was sincerity. "All right," he said, finally. "I'll go with you." The woman's smile widened. "Good. You won't regret it." She reached out and touched his arm gently, and in an instant, the world around him seemed to vanish. The park, the city, everything he knew disappeared, replaced by a feeling of weightlessness. A moment later, the scenery shifted again, and Daniel found himself standing in a place that was both familiar and alien. They were no longer on Earth. They were somewhere far beyond. Daniel's breath caught in his throat as he looked around. The sky was a deep shade of violet, dotted with stars that seemed brighter and closer than he had ever seen. In the distance, there were two moons, and the ground beneath his feet felt soft and strange. It wasn't just another planet, it was something entirely different. The woman stood beside him, her eyes glowing in the twilight. "Welcome to my world, Daniel. Welcome to a new life." Daniel blinked, unsure of what was happening. One moment, he was standing in the quiet park, talking to a woman who claimed to be from another world. And the next, he was on a planet that felt nothing like Earth. The ground beneath him was soft, almost like grass, but it shimmered with a faint glow. The sky above was a deep shade of purple, filled with bright stars that twinkled as if they were alive. He took a deep breath. The air was clean and crisp, yet it was unlike anything he had ever experienced before. "Where are we?" Daniel asked, his voice filled with awe. He couldn't help but stare at the stars above, each one so close, so real. This place was far beyond anything he had ever imagined. Lyra, the woman who had brought him here, smiled at him. "This is my world, Daniel. My home. It's called Arender, and it's a place where the boundaries of space and time are different from what you know." Daniel turned to look at her. "Arender. But how did you bring me here?" Lyra's eyes sparkled as she walked toward him. "It's a gift, Daniel. A way of traveling beyond the limits of human knowledge. My people have mastered the art of space travel. But it's not just about ships or technology. It's about understanding the universe in a way humans are only beginning to comprehend." Daniel tried to process her words, but his mind felt like it was racing ahead of him. This was all too much to take in. One moment, he was living his normal life, and the next, he was standing on an alien planet, surrounded by stars, with a woman who seemed to know everything about him. "I don't understand," Daniel said, his voice filled with confusion. "How do you know so much about me?" Lyra's smile softened. "I've been watching you, Daniel. I've seen the way you've always wondered what's beyond your world, the way you've questioned your place in the universe. I've chosen you because you're ready to see the truth." "Truth," Daniel repeated, his mind struggling to keep up. "What truth?" Lyra took a step closer to him, her eyes gentle but intense. "That you are more than just a human. You have the potential to understand things that most humans can't even begin to imagine. You were always meant to come here, to Arender. I knew this the moment I saw you." Daniel's heart raced as he absorbed her words. He wasn't just an ordinary human. Was there really more to him than what he had always known? It was hard to believe, but there was something about Lyra's presence that made him feel as if she was speaking the truth. She reached out and gently placed her hand on his arm. "Come, let me show you the stars." Daniel nodded, still in awe of everything around him. Lyra led him through the strange, glowing grass, her movements graceful and confident. The landscape of Arender stretched out before them, a mixture of towering trees with leaves that shimmered in the alien light, and vast fields of flowers that glowed softly in the darkness. The air smelled sweet, like fresh flowers after a rainstorm, and the entire planet seemed to hum with a quiet energy. As they walked, Lyra continued to explain. "On Arender, we don't just explore space, we connect with it. We understand the energy that flows through everything, through the stars, the planets, and even ourselves. It's a connection that most species in the universe can only dream of." Daniel listened closely, but the more Lyra spoke, the more questions he had. "So, are you saying that your people can do things that humans can't? Like, you can talk to the stars?" Lyra laughed softly, her voice like the sound of wind through trees. "In a way, yes. We don't just talk to the stars, Daniel. We listen to them. We understand their patterns, their movements, and how they shape the worlds around them. It's not just about science or technology, it's about feeling the universe." Daniel's mind whirled. This was beyond anything he had ever learned. It was like a dream, but it felt so real. Every step he took, he felt more and more like he was meant to be here. They reached the top of a hill, and Lyra pointed to the sky. "Look at that," she said, her voice filled with wonder. Daniel looked up, his breath catching in his throat. The sky above them was alive with movement. Swirling clouds of colors he had never seen before danced across the horizon, and the stars seemed to shift and pulsed with a rhythm that felt almost like a heartbeat. He could see planets, some large and some small, drifting slowly across the sky. It was unlike anything he had ever imagined. The beauty of it took his breath away. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Lyra smiled. "Yes, it is. But this is just the beginning. There is so much more for you to discover, Daniel. This planet, this universe, it's all waiting for you." Daniel stood there, his heart racing. This was it, the adventure he had always dreamed of. But as he looked at Lyra, standing beside him, her eyes glowing with something ancient and wise, he realized that this journey wasn't just about exploring the stars, it was about discovering a deeper connection, something that went beyond space and time. And he had no idea where it would lead. Daniel stood on the hill with Lyra by his side, staring out at the incredible view of Erender's vast landscape. The beauty of the planet overwhelmed him. The sky above was filled with swirling colors, and the air smelled fresh, as if it had been cleansed by something ancient and powerful. He could feel the energy of this world in his bones. It was a place full of life and mysteries, unlike anything he had ever known. "This is amazing," Daniel said, his voice barely a whisper. "How's this even possible? How can a place like this exist?" Lyra smiled softly, her eyes twinkling with understanding. "Erender is a world beyond your wildest dreams, Daniel. It exists in a way that's different from Earth, different from any world you've ever visited. Here, the laws of nature are shaped by forces that are not fully understood. My people have learned to live with them, to harness them, but we are only beginning to uncover all of their secrets." Daniel turned to her, feeling a mix of awe and curiosity. "Your people, are they all like you? Can they all do what you can do?" Lyra nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Yes, we all have the ability to connect with the universe in a deeper way. We can tap into the energy that flows through everything around us. We listen to the stars. We feel the pulse of the planet, and we understand the balance that keeps everything in harmony. But this isn't something we take lightly. It's a responsibility, one that comes with great understanding and respect." Daniel felt a shiver run down his spine. The way Lyra spoke made it sound like she was part of something ancient and wise, something that went beyond the limits of what he could grasp. But at the same time, he felt an intense pull to learn more, to understand what she was saying. "What happens if we don't understand this balance?" he asked. Lyra's smile faded slightly, replaced by a more serious expression. "That's why I brought you here, Daniel, because you have the potential to help us. There are forces in this universe that we can't control, things that are beyond even our understanding. If they are not handled carefully, they could destroy everything." Daniel's mind raced. "What kind of forces? What are you talking about?" Lyra hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "There are beings in the universe, Daniel, who seek to disrupt the balance. They want to take control of worlds like Erender, to bend them to their will. They have the power to manipulate energy, to warp the fabric of space and time. If they get to this planet—" She didn't finish her sentence, but the gravity of her words hung in the air. Daniel could feel the weight of what she was saying. This wasn't just an adventure. This was a mission or responsibility he hadn't expected, one that would require him to become something more than he ever imagined. "Is that why you brought me here?" Daniel asked quietly. "Because I can help you fight these beings?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, but not in the way you might think. I believe you have the strength to see things differently. You're not bound by the same limitations as my people. You think in ways that we can't. You might be the key to stopping them." Daniel didn't know how to respond. He was still trying to process everything that had happened in the past few hours. One moment, he was living his normal life, and now, here he was, on an alien planet, being told that his presence was needed to save this world from a threat he didn't fully understand. Before he could say anything, Lyra turned to him, her expression softening. "Come, let me show you the heart of my world." They began walking down the hill, and Daniel noticed that the ground beneath them felt soft, like walking on a field of grass. But it glowed faintly in the dark. They passed through tall trees, whose leaves shimmered with a light that didn't seem to come from the stars. It was as if the trees themselves were alive, sharing their energy with the land. As they walked, Lyra spoke more about her planet. Arendar is not just a place, it's a living entity. The energy that flows through it connects everything: the plants, the animals, the sky, the ground. All of it works together in perfect harmony. But this balance is delicate. If something disturbs it, the entire planet could be in danger. They reached a clearing where the ground seemed to open up, revealing a glowing pool of liquid. The pool shimmered with an inner light, casting soft reflections on the surrounding trees. The air here was thicker, as if the energy in this place was more concentrated. Lyra motioned for Daniel to step closer. "This is the heart of Arendar," she explained. "It's where the energy of the planet is strongest. It's here that my people come to meditate, to connect with the planet's soul. It is from here that we draw our power, our understanding. It's also where we sense any imbalance, any threat to our world." Daniel knelt by the pool, feeling the strange energy that pulsed in the air. He could feel it in his fingertips, like a low hum that resonated deep within him. It was calming, yet powerful, and for a moment, he felt as though he was part of something much larger than himself. Lyra stood beside him, watching him closely. "Do you feel it, Daniel? The energy? It's the pulse of Arendar. It's in everything. Here, it's what keeps our world alive." Daniel nodded slowly, his mind struggling to comprehend the enormity of it all. This planet, this place, it wasn't just another world. It was a living, breathing entity, connected to everything around it, and now, he was part of it. Lyra's voice broke through his thoughts. "I will teach you how to listen to the heart of Arendar, Daniel, and together, we will protect it." Daniel looked at her, the weight of her words sinking in. He was no longer just a visitor here. He had a role to play, a mission he never expected. And with Lyra by his side, he would face whatever challenges awaited him on this strange, beautiful world. As the days passed on Arendar, Daniel felt more and more at home in this strange and beautiful world. Every moment was filled with discovery. He had learned to connect with the planet's energy, feeling it pulse through his body, especially when he stood near the glowing trees or the heart of Arendar. But there was still so much he didn't understand. One evening, Lyra took him to a quiet place on the edge of the forest. The stars above twinkled brightly, their light reflecting off the lake they stood beside. The air was cooler here, and Daniel could hear the gentle ripple of water nearby. "This is where my people come when we need to think," Lyra said softly, her eyes looking up at the stars. "It's peaceful here. It helps us connect with our purpose." Daniel stood beside her, unsure of what to say. "What's your purpose, Lyra?" he asked, his voice quiet. I know you want to protect this planet, but what else?" Lyra glanced at him, a thoughtful expression on her face. "My people are guardians of this world. We are the keepers of the balance between Arendar and the universe. We have learned how to understand the forces that shape the cosmos, and it is our responsibility to ensure that these forces don't cause harm to our world or others." Daniel didn't fully understand what she meant, but he could see the seriousness in her eyes. "But how do you do that? How do you protect the balance?" Lyra smiled, but it wasn't the warm smile he was used to. This one seemed more distant, as if it carried the weight of many years of responsibility. "We don't just fight against things that threaten us, we also try to understand them. We communicate with the forces we can't see, the energy that flows through everything, and the beings who control it. Sometimes these forces are peaceful, and sometimes they are not. It's a constant balance." Daniel nodded slowly, still processing her words. "And the beings you're talking about, are they the ones you're afraid of? The ones you said could destroy this world?" Lyra's gaze grew distant, as if she was recalling something painful. "Yes, there are those in the universe who seek power above all else. They don't understand the balance we've worked so hard to maintain. They want to control Arendar, to use its energy for their own gain. And they don't care about the consequences." Daniel could feel the weight of her words. He didn't know who these beings were or what kind of power they had, but he understood one thing: they were a serious threat. He looked at Lyra, his heart heavy with the realization that her world and everything she cared about was in danger. Is that why you brought me here? Daniel asked. Because you think I can help stop them? Lyra turned to face him, her eyes filled with both hope and fear. I brought you here because I believe you have the strength to see things differently. You are not bound by the same rules that govern our world. You think outside of the box, and sometimes it's that different perspective that can make all the difference. Daniel didn't know how to respond. He was just an ordinary guy, nothing special. How could he possibly help in a situation like this? But then, Lyra placed her hand on his arm, her touch gentle and reassuring. I know you're scared, she said softly, but you have a strength within you, Daniel. I've seen it since the moment I met you. You may not understand it yet, but you're more capable than you think. Daniel swallowed hard, trying to keep his emotions in check. He didn't feel capable. He didn't feel strong. But there was something about Lyra's words that made him believe that maybe, just maybe, he could do something important here. He had no idea what that something was yet, but he had to trust her. What do I need to do? Daniel asked, his voice steady despite the uncertainty inside him. Lyra's expression softened. For now, we need to learn more. We need to understand the threat. There are others like me, other guardians who are trying to protect our world. We'll meet with them and find out what they know. But you must be ready, Daniel. These beings we are facing, they are not like anything you've encountered before. I'll be ready, Daniel said, surprising himself with how sure he sounded. Maybe he didn't know exactly what he was getting into, but he had to try. For Lyra, for her people, and for this world that he was starting to care about. Lyra smiled again. And this time, it was a genuine, comforting smile. I believe in you, Daniel. As the night grew darker, Lyra and Daniel walked together toward a distant structure that seemed to rise out of the ground like a giant crystal. It glowed softly in the moonlight, and Daniel could feel the energy of the planet flowing through it. It was beautiful, mysterious, and full of secrets that he was eager to learn. I've been thinking, Daniel said as they walked, if your people can feel the energy of this planet, can you feel everything? The plants, the animals, the air? Lyra nodded. Yes, we can feel everything. Arendar is alive in ways that Earth isn't. It's not just the land or the creatures that live. Here it's the very energy that flows through it all. And as guardians, we are connected to that energy in ways that go beyond simple understanding. It's part of us. Daniel's mind was racing again. This was all so much to take in. But it felt like each moment was another piece of the puzzle. And he had to keep up, no matter how difficult it seemed. They reached the crystal-like structure. And Lyra stopped. This is where we will begin, she said softly. This is where the answers lie. And soon, Daniel, you will understand what your role truly is. Daniel took a deep breath. He wasn't sure what he was about to face, but he knew that he couldn't turn back. Not now. Not when there was so much at stake. The days on Arendar seemed to pass by in a blur of wonder and discovery. Daniel had learned so much about this strange world and its people, and each day brought something new. The energy that flowed through the planet felt more familiar to him now, and he had started to feel connected to it in a way he couldn't explain. Lyra had taught him how to feel the pulse of Arendar, how to listen to the land, the trees, the sky. It was a quiet, soothing presence that surrounded him, and he felt stronger, more alive than he ever had on Earth. But as the nights grew longer and the stars above seemed to burn brighter, Daniel began to sense that something was wrong. He couldn't quite place it, but there was an unease in the air, a tension that he couldn't ignore. Lyra had noticed it too, and it was beginning to show on her face. One evening, as they walked along a quiet path near the crystal-like structure where they had met, Lyra stopped suddenly, her hand resting on Daniel's arm. There's something I need to tell you, she said, her voice serious, her usual warmth replaced by a quiet strength. Something I've been keeping from you. Daniel looked at her, concern in his eyes. What is it, Lyra? She took a deep breath before speaking again. The threat I spoke of earlier. It's closer than I thought. We've been feeling strange disturbances in the energy fields around the planet, something that doesn't belong here. It's not just a random occurrence. It's a sign that the beings we've been watching are already making their move. Daniel's heart skipped a beat. He had heard the stories, but hearing it from Lyra made it feel more real. What kind of move? What are they doing? Lyra's expression darkened. They've been hiding in the shadows for a long time, but now they're starting to push through. We've been monitoring their movements, but they've become more unpredictable. They're trying to break through the barriers that protect our world, to tap into the energy here. If they succeed, they could rip apart the very fabric of Arendar itself. Daniel's mind raced. He had never imagined that things would escalate this quickly. He had only just started to understand what was at stake, and now it seemed as if everything was about to change. Is there anything we can do? Daniel asked, his voice tense. Lyra turned to face him fully, her eyes filled with determination. Yes, but we need to act quickly. The first step is to reach the Council of Guardians. They're the only ones who can help us prepare for what's coming. The Council? Daniel asked. Trying to follow her, Lyra nodded. The Council is made up of the most powerful and respected guardians on Arendar. They are the ones who maintain the balance of our world, and they know more about these beings than anyone else. We need their help to stop this before it gets worse. Daniel felt the weight of her words. He had no idea how he could possibly help, but the urgency in Lyra's voice made it clear that he couldn't just stand by. This wasn't a battle for her world alone. It was a battle for the survival of everything he had come to care about. How do we find them? Daniel asked. Lyra took his hand, and together, they began walking toward a distant part of the planet that Daniel had never seen before. As they moved through the dense forest, the landscape began to change. The trees grew taller, their branches twisting and turning in strange patterns, and the ground beneath them seemed to hum with energy. The air felt heavier here, as if it carried the weight of centuries of history. After what felt like ours, they arrived at a hidden clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a massive structure, unlike anything Daniel had ever seen. It was a giant stone tower, its surface covered in strange symbols that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. At the base of the tower was a set of stairs leading down into the earth, and Lyra led Daniel to the entrance. This is the Council's hall, Lyra said quietly. It's where the Guardians gather when there's a crisis. It's also where they keep the knowledge of Arendar's most ancient secrets. Daniel looked at her, feeling both awe and fear. This was a place of great power, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something important was about to happen. As they entered the hall, the air grew colder, and Daniel felt a deep sense of unease. The walls of the hall were lined with ancient artifacts and symbols, each one representing a different aspect of the planet's history. The deeper they went into the hall, the more he felt as if they were stepping into the heart of Arendar itself. At the far end of the hall, a group of figures stood in silence. They were tall, with features that were both familiar and strange, their eyes glowing with the same light that Daniel had seen in Lyra's. These were the Guardians. Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady but full of urgency. We need your help. The threat is already here. We cannot stop it alone. The Guardians looked at each other, their expressions unreadable. Finally, one of them, an older figure with silver hair and a deep, commanding voice, spoke. You are right, Lyra. The time has come. The beings we've watched for so long have begun their attack. We've known this day would come, but we had hoped we'd have more time. Lyra nodded. We don't have time. We need to act now. The Guardian stepped forward and turned to Daniel. And you, human, what role do you play in all of this? Daniel felt a knot form in his stomach. I don't know, he admitted. I'm just trying to understand all of this. The Guardian studied him carefully. You may be more important than you realize. We'll need you, Daniel, whether you're ready or not. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. He had no idea what he was about to face. But one thing was clear. There was no turning back. The danger was real, and he was about to be part of something far bigger than himself. The days that followed were filled with urgency. The Council of Guardians had confirmed Lyra's fears. The threat from the mysterious beings had already begun, and they were making their move on Arendar. Their goal was clear: to take control of the planet's energy and disrupt the delicate balance. that had kept the world in harmony for centuries. The Guardians were prepared to fight, but they knew this would be unlike any battle they had ever faced. Daniel found himself caught between two worlds. He was no longer just an ordinary human. He had become part of something much greater, something that could change the fate of an entire planet. But the weight of that responsibility felt heavy on his shoulders. He wasn't sure if he was ready for this kind of fight, and he couldn't help but feel uncertain about his place in all of this. Lyra had been by his side every step of the way, guiding him, teaching him, and helping him understand the energy that flowed through Arendar. But even she seemed weighed down by the enormity of what they were facing. The Guardians had been gathering their strength, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. But time was running out. The mysterious beings were already infiltrating the planet's defenses, and soon they would strike. One evening, as Daniel and Lyra stood on a high balcony overlooking the planet, the quiet hum of the energy beneath their feet filled the air. The stars above seemed distant, almost unreachable, as the two of them watched the sky in silence. "I never imagined I would be part of something like this," Daniel said quietly, his voice filled with doubt. "I'm not a soldier. I'm just a guy from Earth. I don't know what I'm supposed to do." Lyra turned to him, her eyes soft with understanding. "You're more than just a guy from Earth, Daniel. You have something within you that none of us have. You see things differently, you think differently, and that's why you're here." Daniel shook his head. "But what if I'm not enough? What if I can't do this? I don't even know what these beings can do. What if I fail?" Lyra placed a gentle hand on his arm, her touch warm and reassuring. "You won't fail, Daniel. You're not alone. We're all in this together, and sometimes the greatest strength comes from the heart, not the mind. You have the heart of a warrior, even if you don't believe it yet." Daniel looked into her eyes, and for the first time, he saw the vulnerability in her gaze. Lyra had always been strong, always confident, but in that moment, he realized she too was afraid. She was facing the same fears, the same doubts. They were both standing at the edge of something they couldn't fully understand. "I'm scared too," Lyra admitted softly. "I've never faced a threat like this, but I believe in you, Daniel, and I believe in us. Together, we can stop them." The words hung in the air, and Daniel felt the weight of them. He had never felt this kind of pressure before. He had always lived a simple life, one that didn't require him to make life or death decisions. But now, standing beside Lyra, he realized that this was his moment. He could no longer run from the responsibility that had been thrust upon him. He looked out over the planet, the soft glow of the landscape below a reminder of everything that was at stake. The energy of Arendar pulsed beneath his feet, a reminder of the delicate balance that kept this world alive. He could feel it, too. Deep inside him, a connection to the planet that was stronger than anything he had ever experienced before. "I don't want to fail you," Daniel said quietly. "I don't want to fail anyone here. But I don't know if I'm strong enough." Lyra stepped closer, her presence a comfort amidst the uncertainty. "You are stronger than you realize, Daniel. You have already shown more courage than most beings could ever hope for. And that's why I brought you here. You have the strength to face what's coming, even if you don't believe it yet." Daniel turned to face her, his heart pounding. "But what about you, Lyra? What happens to us after this? If we stop them, what comes next?" Lyra's eyes softened, and she reached out to touch his face gently. "What comes next, Daniel, is up to us. We will shape the future together. This planet, this energy, it's not just about protection. It's about understanding. And once we defeat this threat, we can work to ensure that no one ever tries to take control of Arendar again." Daniel's chest tightened as he realized the weight of what she was saying. This wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about securing the future of a world and possibly the universe. And for the first time, Daniel understood his role in it. He wasn't just a passenger on this journey, he was part of it. And he had a responsibility to help shape its outcome. "I'll fight," he said, his voice steady. "I'll do whatever it takes." Lyra smiled, her eyes filled with pride. "I knew you would." They stood there for a long moment, the weight of the decision settling in. Daniel knew that the path ahead would be dangerous, filled with unknowns and threats that he couldn't even begin to understand. But he also knew that he wasn't alone. Lyra was with him, and together they would face whatever came their way. As the night stretched on, Daniel's mind raced with thoughts of the battle to come. The unknown threat loomed larger with each passing hour, but he wasn't afraid anymore. He had found his purpose, and with Lyra by his side, he would fight to protect the world they both loved. The day of the battle arrived far too quickly. Daniel had trained with the Guardians, learned how to use the energy that flowed through Arendar, and prepared himself for the confrontation he had never asked for but now couldn't avoid. The Council of Guardians had made their plans, and Daniel was right there beside Lyra, ready to stand with her in the fight to protect the planet. Arendar was unlike anything Daniel had seen before, but it was also more fragile than he realized. The energy that gave the planet life was its greatest strength and its greatest vulnerability. If the beings from the distant corners of the universe succeeded in taking control of that energy, everything would fall apart, and they had to stop. Then before it was too late. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, the Guardians assembled in the heart of the planet, near the ancient stone tower. The ground beneath their feet seemed to hum with power as the energy of Arendar surged, flowing like a living river through the land. Daniel felt the pull of it, a deep, ancient force that connected everything on this world. It was as if the planet itself was holding its breath, waiting for what would come next. Lyra stood beside him, her expression calm but her eyes sharp with focus. She had always been the one to guide him, to show him how to connect with the energy of Arendar. But now it was time for them to work together, to protect everything they had come to care about. "I'm ready," Daniel said, his voice steady. Despite the nerves that twisted in his stomach, Lyra nodded, her hand briefly brushing his. "We'll do this together, Daniel. Whatever happens, we're in this together." As the Guardians prepared for the fight, the sky above began to change. The stars grew dimmer, and dark clouds began to swirl across the heavens. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and a low, eerie hum echoed in the air. "The invaders were coming. They're here," Lyra said softly, her eyes narrowing as she stared at the sky. "We don't have much time." The Guardians spread out, ready to defend the planet, but Daniel could see the fear in their eyes. Even they were uncertain about what they were facing. These beings weren't just another enemy to fight, they were something beyond anything the Guardians had ever encountered, and Daniel had no idea how to defeat them. Suddenly, a bright light flashed in the distance, and a massive ship appeared in the sky. It was enormous, dark, and ominous, casting a shadow over the land. The invaders had arrived. Their ship was a massive structure, floating in midair, its energy pulsing like a heartbeat, sending ripples through the ground. "This is it," Lyra said, her voice firm. "Stay focused, Daniel. Trust the energy. Let it guide you." Daniel nodded, taking a deep breath. He had learned so much, but nothing could prepare him for this moment. The invaders weren't just after the planet, they were after everything it stood for. The power that flowed through it, and he wasn't about to let them take it. The Guardians raised their hands, and a bright light shot up from the ground, forming a barrier around the planet. It was an energy field, designed to protect Arendar from harm. But Daniel could feel the strain in the air. The invaders' ship was pushing against the barrier, testing its strength. The Guardians worked together, focusing all their energy on holding the barrier steady. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes glowing with determination. "This is our moment," she whispered. "We must hold the line." Daniel felt the energy surge through him, a deep, vibrating force that filled every fiber of his being. He closed his eyes, focusing on the planet beneath his feet, feeling the connection to Arendar, to Lyra, and to the Guardians around him. The power was there, waiting for him to unlock it. He raised his hands, feeling the energy pulse through his fingertips. It wasn't just the energy of the planet anymore, it was his own strength, his own will, connecting with the planet's life force. For a moment, it felt as though he was one with Arendar itself, standing at the center of everything, a part of the planet's heartbeat. The invader's ship moved closer, its dark energy pushing against the barrier. Daniel felt the weight of it, but he refused to back down. He reached deep inside himself, tapping into the power of Arender, and sent a wave of energy toward the invaders. The ground beneath them trembled as the wave collided with the ship's energy field, causing a massive explosion of light and force. The ship wavered in the air, but it didn't retreat. Instead, the invaders unleashed their own power, sending a shockwave toward the Guardian's barrier. The energy clash was so intense that Daniel felt the ground shake beneath his feet, as though the planet itself was screaming in pain. Lyra's voice cut through the chaos. "We need more. Push harder, Daniel. Focus," with a renewed sense of determination. Daniel gathered every ounce of strength he had. He didn't know if he was strong enough, but he had no choice. He couldn't let Arender fall. He couldn't let the invaders win. He raised his hands once more, and the energy within him flared. This time, it wasn't just the power of the planets, it was the power of his own heart, his connection to Lyra, his connection to everything he had come to care about. He pushed the energy forward, sending a massive shockwave toward the invaders' ship. The light exploded out from him, brighter than anything he had ever felt, and for a moment, he was afraid it might consume him. But instead, it consumed the ship. The dark vessel shuddered as the energy hit it, its protective barrier cracking. Under the force, the invaders' ship wavered in the air, then slowly began to break apart, its dark energy dissipating into the air. The Guardians stood in silence, their eyes wide with awe. The battle was over. The invaders had been defeated. Daniel fell to his knees, exhausted but relieved. The planet was safe. Arender had survived. Lyra rushed to his side, her hands on his shoulders as she helped him up. "You did it, Daniel," she whispered. "You saved us." Daniel looked at her, a smile slowly spreading across his face. "We did it," he said, "together." And in that moment, Daniel realized that his journey had just begun. Arender was no longer a strange world. That he had stumbled upon it was a place he belonged to now, and with Lyra by his side, he was ready to face whatever the future held.